Hi, and welcome to One Life Matters, the podcast that reminds you that your life is worth living with purpose, joy, and authenticity. I'm Trish, a counsellor and life coach, and I'll be sharing down to earth conversations, insights, and tools to help you navigate the ups and downs of life. Whether you're healing from the past, finding your confidence, or simply wanting to feel more at peace with yourself, this is your space. Because you only get one life and it truly matters. So, just before we get into this episode, I just want to mention that this podcast is for general information, insight, and reflection only. It's not a substitute for personal therapy, counselling, or medical advice. So, today I want to talk about letting go. And I don't mean that old sweatshirt that's been stuffed at the back of your wardrobe since 2007. I'm talking about the bigger, heavier things we hold on to. Relationships that no longer serve us, old, outdated stories we keep telling ourselves. Letting go of anger, guilt, shame, and bad habits such as scrolling through your phone the minute you open your eyes. I want to explore the reasons why we find giving something up so hard, even though we know deep down it's the best thing for us, and how to begin moving towards letting go and creating a more fulfilled and happier life. Now, we all know how hard it can be to give up on something, especially when that something has sentimental meaning and value, or you have a strong attachment to it. But I absolutely believe that sometimes giving up and letting go is the best, bravest, and smartest thing you can do, especially when what you're hanging on to is doing you more harm than good. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of strength. And when you give up on something that's been over for a long time, or that simply isn't right or good for you, you leave more space in your life for something new and better. I've been there, that horrible moment when you know that you have to let go of something or someone, and it can be really bloody hard. You wrestle with the fear, the sadness, and the what ifs. But the moment you stop fighting and finally allow yourself to release it, well, that's the moment you trade a heavy burden for peace. So let's talk about why we tend to cling on to a few of those things for too long. Relationships, friendships, or even that crappy job. The main reason isn't weakness, it's basic biology and the primal pull of the familiar. Your brain is wired for survival, not for joy. And as I've said before, the human brain will always default to the path it already knows, the familiar route, even if that route is completely miserable. Why? Because predictability equals safety. And to your primal brain, the devil you know always feels better and safer than the one you don't. So even when that relationship or that job is actively destroying your peace and making you sick with misery, the fear of the unknown, that big, scary step into the dark, and all the what ifs and the hope that maybe things will change or get better, is enough to keep you chained to the discomfort. You stay anchored to the misery because your brain confuses that familiar suffering with being safe. And that's the real trap we have to learn to break out of. So I want to bring up something that I come across quite often in therapy. And that's when a client or a couple are staying in a relationship that lacks love, respect, and intimacy to the point they're really miserable, have been for years, and want out. They've given up on hopes for the relationship to revive and the happy ever after. And the only reason they stay is because they feel it's their duty to their children. And this is far from uncommon where couples stay together for the sake of the kids. And I totally get it. It's a deeply complex and understandable decision that comes from wanting to protect their family. It can feel like an impossible, heart-wrenching situation to be in. And my role in that situation is to help them gently explore a question that often comes up. What is the unspoken lesson children absorb and learn when they consistently witness their parents, the most important relationship models in their lives, living without affection, laughter, or without showing love to each other, and instead they witness quite a lot of hostility, coldness, arguing, and upset? It's worth considering the emotional cost of that tension or distance. Could a clear, though initially painful separation eventually allow both parents to model a healthier, happier life for their children? The goal is always to find the path that leads to the most well-being for the family as a whole, and sometimes that does mean letting go. Now, let's turn our attention to the physical things, the sheer stuff we surround ourselves with that quietly weighs us down. You know, that box in the attic you haven't opened since you moved in, the clothes in the back of your wardrobe with the tags still on, or that dreaded junk drawer, the one full of tangled phone chargers that don't fit any of your devices anymore, old keys that unlock nothing, and dead batteries. We look at these objects, and unless it's a case that we just can't be asked to sort them out, we often avoid giving them up. Why? Because we convince ourselves that we can't possibly get rid of this stuff just in case we'll need it one day. Or we make that promise to ourselves that we're going to fit back into those jeans. And sometimes things are tied to memories. We often tell ourselves that if we get rid of the thing, we're somehow dishonouring the past or the person who gave it to us. And we confuse the object with the memory, which I'm sure many of you listening can relate to. So, after my mum died, I can remember hanging on to half of her wardrobe, including about 3 pairs of her shoes, this vanity case with her rollers in, and for some reason, I can't believe I'm telling you this, I even had a set of her false teeth, but we won't dwell on that, her old hairbrush, and 2 of her handbags. And it was all kept in this huge laundry bag. And it might sound ridiculous, but the mere thought of getting rid of any of it, I mean, a single item, made me feel really guilty, like I was disposing of her memory and a little bit like I was losing her again. But I finally had to be honest with myself. I mean, Christ, not only did this stuff take up far more room than I had to spare, what I realised is that my mum's memory isn't actually stored in this massive laundry bag. And as difficult as it was at the time, I made a very deliberate choice. I kept one of her handbags, a jumper, and a couple of her most personal items, which brought me comfort. Yeah, okay, I did keep the false teeth. But the rest, I donated because I realised that the depth of the memories and the love we shared is stored right here, inside me. You know, holding on to a load of physical stuff that no longer serves you or has a purpose isn't an act of preservation. It's literally metaphorically an act of cluttering your present and shrinking your future, especially if holding on is keeping you in the past. And what about those bad habits? You know the ones. When we endlessly scroll through social media, consistently putting off important tasks, or reaching for that late-night sugary, carby snack. We often give ourselves a really hard time as if these habits are some kind of moral failure. But the truth is, they're deeply entrenched automatic behavioural loops the brain has created for comfort or a quick reward. We find them so hard to shed because they offer an immediate, though fleeting, sense of relief from stress, boredom, or discomfort. Your brain prefers this predictable, low-effort path, making any attempt to choose a new, more difficult behaviour, albeit healthier one, feel like a real mental battle. Yet the benefit of choosing that battle is immense. Letting go of a detrimental habit isn't just about stopping an unwanted action. It's about reclaiming your time, energy, and mental space. When you successfully replace an energy-draining habit like watching mindless TV or endless phone scrolling with a more energetic, empowering one, such as exercising, going for a walk or bike ride, or reading an actual book, you start building an inner strength and a belief in your ability to change and achieve goals. This small victory cascades into other areas of your life, reducing anxiety and increasing focus. Ultimately, shedding a bad habit allows you to align your daily actions with your long-term goals, transforming you from someone who wishes they could change into someone who consistently takes action towards the life that they want. And of course, habits take time to change, but small steps consistently and persistently will create great leaps. And what about the really heavy things that we carry around, like anger and resentment? As Nelson Mandela famously put it, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Think about that for a minute. When you hold on to that white-hot rage, that deep grudge, that bitterness, you're effectively carrying a massive invisible backpack full of bricks. You're the one struggling under the crushing weight. It's keeping you awake at night. You're exhausted, you're drained. Meanwhile, the person you're actually pissed off with, they're likely out having a perfectly lovely day after a great night's sleep, completely unaware or simply unbothered by the effect they're having on you. Letting go of anger isn't a gift to them, it's a release for you. But the deepest, heaviest, and most insidious forms of baggage that we carry, and the one that is probably the most difficult to let go of, is the invisible anchor of our outdated belief systems. I'm talking about those self-limiting narratives that have been looping in your mind for years, maybe decades. The ones you accept as gospel truth. I'm not good enough. I'm an imposter, or I'll never be successful because I don't have X, Y, or Z. These aren't facts. They're simply old, tired stories that are keeping you small and stuck. You might be thinking, if these beliefs make me so miserable, why do I keep them? Well, the answer goes back to that brain wiring we discussed earlier, the one that prefers familiarity over happiness. Our brains absolutely crave consistency, so if you've been telling yourself, I'm not good enough since you were 10 years old, that story has become a comforting, predictable identity. To suddenly say, wait, I'm more than good enough, creates a terrifying friction. It contradicts decades of built-in programming. Your brain sees that new, positive belief as a threat to your established identity, even if that identity makes you sad. Letting go of those internal critics isn't about ignoring the past. It's about giving yourself permission to finally become the person you were always meant to be. But you need to go carefully with this and take one step at a time. Now, I want to talk about something that's really relevant here and ties in with what I've been talking about. There's an interesting psychological term for why we sometimes stick at something that we know we should let go of and walk away from. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. This is when we keep putting more time, money, energy or effort into something just because we've already invested in it, even if it no longer serves us. It's like paying to go and see a film that you decide halfway through is a load of shit. But instead of leaving, you force yourself to stay because you've paid for the ticket. Or it's the relationship you're desperately unhappy in, but you stay because of all the years you've already invested. You know, you're valuing the years already gone instead of valuing the ones ahead. Gambling is another great example. You keep losing, but because you've already invested so much, including the house and the car, you feel like you can't walk away. You're convinced you'll strike it lucky and win big any minute now, against all odds and evidence. You know, I invested 5 years of my time, my energy, sweat, and literally tears into what I thought would be my dream job. And after just 6 months, I sure as hell knew it wasn't the right job for me. But I just couldn't walk away. I was a classic victim of the sunk cost fallacy. I kept thinking it would get better, that it would be worth the dread, the anxiety, the overwhelming feeling of imposter syndrome. 5 miserable fucking years of my life. And the longer I stayed, the more I felt stuck, like it would be a huge waste to walk away after all that time and effort. It got to the point that my mental health began to suffer, but that's what it took for me to finally throw the towel in and let go. And honestly, when I finally hit send on my resignation email, I felt this incredible release. The heavy shackles came off and I felt free. I could breathe again because the fear of staying in that job for another month was far greater than the fear of what the hell I was going to do instead. And I realised that I didn't quit my dream job. I quit the fear of walking away. So, how do you know when it's time to let go? A good sign, like I've just mentioned, is when holding on feels heavier than the fear of letting go. Maybe it's draining your energy, stealing your peace of mind, your sleep, or making you second guess yourself. If it's taking more from you than it's giving, it's time to pause and ask, what's keeping me here? Is it habit, fear, guilt? And sometimes, despite the avoidance, the truth is we already know that we need to let go. We don't need a flashing neon sign from the universe. We just need to listen to that quiet inner voice that we keep shushing. Now, letting go doesn't always mean some dramatic ending. It can be gentle step by step. For instance, name it. Get clear on what you're holding on to. Is it a person, a memory, an object, a feeling, a belief? Naming it brings it out of the shadows and gives you a clear focus. Ask, what's the payoff? Sometimes we hold on because it gives us something. Maybe a sense of identity, a distraction, or it stops us from facing something scarier. Once you see the payoff, you can decide if it's truly worth the cost. Create a ritual of release. This doesn't have to be mystical, though if burning sage is your thing, go for it. It could be writing a letter you never send, clearing out that drawer, or even just saying out loud, I don't need this anymore. And as silly as this might sound, rituals signal to your brain that you're shifting gears towards change. Replace it with something healthy or meaningful. When we let go, we create space. And as they say, nature hates a vacuum, so fill that space intentionally with something that feels good, whether that's a new hobby, a healthy habit, or simply more rest. Of course, sometimes we think we've let go and then all of a sudden it pops back up again and we can find ourselves being drawn back in. And you know what? That's okay. Letting go isn't always a one-time event. It's often a practice. We don't have to get it perfect. It's about making room for peace, for growth, and for things that truly support the person you're becoming. Remember, you've got one life, one. Are you happy? Are you growing, or are you stagnant? Are you just settling? Settling can be a slow killer of dreams and joy. I heard that quote while listening to the mindset mentor Rob Dial, and it really resonated with me. Your life is way too short to just settle. You owe it to yourself to demand more, to challenge your belief system, to keep evolving and growing. Step out of your comfort zone and into the terrifying unknown. That's what I'm doing with this podcast, with my business. At 56 years old, I think I get it. I'm finally doing what lights up my life, excites and terrifies me all at the same time. And let me tell you, I'd rather take chances now than regret that I didn't later on. Now, if you take just one message away from this episode, let it be this. You are officially giving yourself permission. Permission to stop feeling guilty for needing to let go of whatever's holding you back in life. Permission to stop apologizing for the positive change. Permission to start putting yourself first and being happy at last. Letting go is simply giving yourself back to yourself. It's a fundamental act of self-love. So today, take a deep breath and whisper to yourself the thing you need to release. And then, just for a moment, feel how relieved and light you become just by letting go. Thank you for joining me on One Life Matters. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love you to subscribe and maybe share it with someone who might need it too. And remember, you only get one life, so make it one that truly matters. Until next time, take care of yourself.